Hi, my name is Candace, aka Picasso Baby, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create your very own curvaceous flower girl. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you so much for stopping by to paint with me again. And before we get started, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so that you do not miss the next tutorial, and turn on those post notifications. Also, as always, I love to hear your suggestions on what to paint next. So please make sure you leave that down in the comments as well if there's anything specific that you'd like to paint. So before we get started, I'm going to go over a few things that we're working with, and I'm going to make a few announcements. So as you can see, as always, I am working with a 16 by 20 inch canvas. I do have a pencil sketch on here already, but I'm going to show you the sketch, and I'm going to be using a marker so that you can see it better. I am working with a few different acrylic brushes, water cup with cool water, and you want to make sure you have a paper towel to dry your brushes off on. I'm also working with acrylic paint, and I am using the colors Mars Black, Phthalo Blue, Burnt Sienna, Bright Red, Chrome Yellow, and Titanium White. So I am going to start out by showing you the sketch again, but I'm going to do it in markers so that you can see it clear. But I am going to make the first announcement. So I said that I would be giving away a few kits once I hit 2,000 subscribers. And there are 2,000 of you painting with me now. So because of that, I am going to be giving away 3 paint party kits. So make sure you stick around for the end to find out how you can win those kits. So let's get started with the sketch now. So again, I am using a permanent black marker. You do want to make sure it's permanent. That way it's easier for you to paint over it. And I am sketching out a curvy woman with a flower. This was actually suggested by Aisha P. I believe that's how you pronounce it, Aisha P. She asked for a curvy woman with a flower. So this is my interpretation of her suggestion. So I'm going to start out by simply going over my lines. That way you can see what I'm doing. So I start a little bit at the top here, and I'm starting with petals. So that is the center of my flower. And now I'm going to pull a couple of petals around it. And if you want a different type of flower, you definitely can do the flower of your choice. I'm going to keep creating petals around until I get it filled. And I'm going to do a few more. So it's almost like the petals take the place of her head, like she's blooming. So now that I have all of those petals, I want to begin to create her body. So what I'm going to do to create her body first, I am going to start from the side here, and I'm going to pull a curve. This is going to be like the side of her chest area, and I'm going to curve it in right at the middle. And then I'm going to make another curve here. So that kind of shows you what her chest will look like. And then I'm going to close that off by coming back at the top and curving here. Because I'm not going to have her completely nude, so I do want to do some things to cover her up. But once I have this here, I'm going to create her arms going around the flower. So from the side here, I'm going to pull line up over here. Same thing here. And then I'm going to create her body. So I don't want her to be super skinny. I do want her to be curvy like the suggestion, but you can do the body type that you like. It's completely up to you. So I'm starting right under her breast area, and I am pulling a line over that way. Same thing here. And then to cover, again, I want to, there are going to be pieces of her skin showing, but I do want to kind of keep her covered. So I'm going to pull a line across here. and another line down there. So once you have that, if there's anything else that you want to draw on, you definitely can. Otherwise, we're gonna get started painting. So another thing that I'm gonna be doing today, I did ask you guys how you felt about doing story times. So I'm gonna start story times today. And I thought, what better way to start off, or what better story to start with than the story of how I became a paint and sip owner. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm starting with my biggest brush. So I'm starting with a bigger flat brush, and I want to fill in my background. I am going for, I'm going to actually make more like an orange color. So I'm going to mix up yellow with a little bit of red and also some white, almost like a peach color. And I'm going to mix that up right on my plate. Or you can do the color of your choice. Remember, it is up to you. You do want to make this your own. And I am going to paint everything around the sides. So, as I'm painting that, let's get started with story time. So, how I became a paint and sip owner. So, I'm not sure how all of you know, but I do own a mobile paint and sip company in Detroit, Michigan called Paint Party. So, we service Detroit, Michigan and surrounding areas, and we bring the paint and the party right to you. So as long as you have the location for us to set up at, we bring your canvases, your brushes, paint, easels, everything that you need to paint, and we instruct a 2-hour class. But before I was a paint and sip owner of my own, I actually used to work at Painting with a Twist. So while I went to Michigan State for studio art, and while I was there, I actually started working for Painting with a Twist Lansing, Michigan location. So once I graduated, it actually worked out very well because I was graduating with my degree in studio art, and I already had a job as an art instructor, so I didn't really have to look for one. So I was able to ask my boss to transfer me to a location closer to home because I was returning to Detroit, Michigan. So after graduation, I was transferred to the Farmington Hills location, and you know, everything started out really well. I had already been doing the job in Lansing for a little over a year, so I absolutely loved it. And of course, at any job, you have people and coworkers that you love, and you have coworkers that you just co-work with. And that was definitely the case for me. So as I was working there, everything was fine. I definitely met a group of artists, a group of girls that I absolutely love. I still hang out with them to this day. But I also had one a manager. She was like she managed the store, so she was an artist, but she didn't really teach classes unless it was like an emergency. She really was just the manager there. So she was an older lady, and she was one of those older ladies that was like, she wanted to be friends with everybody at work, and you really didn't know if it was like genuine friendship, because she was also one of those people that wanted to know everybody's business. Like if you were talking about something, she wanted to be able to walk in and jump right into the conversation. And I wasn't really for it. Like that wasn't my thing. Like if I like you as a person, I don't have any problem creating a friendship outside of work. But if I know that, especially when you're in a higher position than me, if I know that I can't really trust your motives, I'm not really telling you my business. You're not going to catch me up, sweetheart. So yeah, so I ended up being there for a couple years, and it was like when I first got there, she was cool, she was nice. But after about a year, I could really tell her personality was that she wanted to be, she wanted to micromanage everything, and she just wanted to be in everybody's business so that she could report back to the boss. So the first incident, and actually I'm going to show you the next step before I move on. So now that I have my background completely finished, normally we take a break to let these dry, but because it is sketched out, we don't necessarily have to take a break. So I'm going to go right into filling in her skin tone. So for her skin tone, I'm going to keep using the same brush, but I'm going to show you some different ones that you can do. So again, if you have that burnt sienna or any shade of brown and you like that brown as is, you can use it as is, and you can fill in her arms, her stomach area, and this piece of her thigh that's showing. If you want to go lighter, you can mix up brown and white, and that'll give you a bit of a lighter shade. You can even mix yellow into that brown and white if you want to go for more of a caramel shade. If you are going lighter than that, you can mix up white, a little bit of brown, and a little bit of red, a very small amount of red. The red does get in there really quickly. So brown, white, a little bit of red, and that'll give you a lighter shade. Or if you're going a bit darker, if you're melanated, if you're chocolate, you are going to mix up brown and a little bit of black. And when you're mixing it up, just adding a little bit of black at a time. It does turn dark really quickly, so you don't need a lot of it. So once you choose your shade, again, you're filling in your arms, your stomach, and your thigh. All right. So back to the story. So the first incident where I noticed, like, okay, this is not really going to work is she, the manager, she added everybody on, or she added who she could find on Facebook. And she couldn't find me on Facebook because although it is my first and last name, like my name on there is my first and last name, I also have my middle initials. So if you don't type in my middle initials, it won't pop up. And then I also made sure, like, I go on my social media, and I won't lie, I block people that I work with. If I feel like you're just on there trying to, you know, figure out business, I will block you so that you will not be figuring out my business. So I didn't block her on Facebook, but I did block her on Instagram, because, you know, I get a little looser on Instagram. But so I blocked her on there, and then she brought it up at work one day, like, yeah, I tried to add you on Facebook, but I couldn't find you. And, you know, I kind of made it known, like, yeah, no, I don't, I'm not really on Facebook like that. I didn't even really kind of say, like, oh, I don't add coworkers on there. I just was like, I'm not on Facebook like that, trying to, like, you know, play down the issue. And she went to another coworker, and she said, yeah, I don't know why she doesn't, you know, want to be my friend on there, or why, you know, she doesn't really talk to me about things. Like, it was an issue that we weren't friends. And I just didn't understand, because when I got hired for the job, nowhere did it say that I had to have a personal relationship with anyone. I just had to do my job and be polite, which I always was. I didn't want personal relationships with everybody there. And she took offense to that. So it became harder and harder to work with her. And then the final straw was one day we were working together. And I had a group of, Asians that came in. I don't know exactly what their heritage or background was, but I know they were of Asian descent, and they were there, and they painted with me. And as artists, we have tip jars in our classrooms, in our studio spaces. So at the end of the night when we were cleaning up, she kind of made this comment like, did those people, did they leave you tips? Did they leave you tips? you know, those people don't leave tips. And I was like, I'll let you guess her race. And I just was like, you know, yeah, they did, but it really wasn't any of her business whether they left me a tip or not. And then things, so that instance and that situation, it became like a repeat thing. Like things like that kept happening, and her going to talk to other coworkers about why we weren't friends kept happening. So it came to the owner of the studio, it came to her attention, and she decided to move me to a different location because she owned 3 Painting with the Twist locations. So I was happy to move because 1, Farmington Hills was too far from my home, and 2, the studio that I was going to was a little more young and hip. So I was happy to move, and of course the cherry on top was that I no longer had to work with the manager at the Farmington Hills location. So I end up moving, and I'm thinking, okay, new studio, new vibe, new energy, is gonna be better. No. So I get to the new studio and everything's going well for the first couple of weeks or first month, and then they also have managers and things at their studio, but they also had a lead artist, which is something we didn't necessarily have at our location. But their lead artist, she wasn't that much older than me, but she wanted to like really make her role known, and I didn't mind. As long as you don't step on my toes, I won't step on yours. I'm just here to do my job, get my check, and go home. But that's not how she saw it. So when I got to that location, it wasn't hard for me to like make friends with the employees there, because I'm sure, as you can tell, I have a very bright, bubbly personality. I'm a people person. I love people. But being a people person can also cause other people to want you to dim your light, and I'm never doing it. That's never going to happen. And she was one of those people. She wanted to be the brightest light, so she wanted to dim mine, and I was not allowing it. So one day we were closing up, and this is at the new location that I transferred to. We were working, and we were closing that location, and the artists had to take out their trash every night from their room. So I took out my trash on my own, and then I told the assistants that were working that night that I was leaving. And one of them happened to be a friend of mine, that I had become friends with her while working there. So the next time that I came into work, she informed me that the lead artist had an issue with me taking my trash out on my own. She felt that I should wait for all the other artists and we should all go as a group. But there were like 3 or 4 of us working that night, 3 or 4 artists. And I decided to take mine on my own. There were other artists that could have still went together as a group. I don't understand what the big issue was, but she made it a really big issue. And she kind of went around to everybody basically saying like, yeah, that's not how we do things here. That's not how we do things at my house. This is my house. I didn't know she lived at Painting with the Twist, but okay. So yeah, she kind of, so I have this filled in, but I am going back to fill in some streaky areas. So yeah, she made a big deal of it and kind of went to everybody telling them, and I guess she didn't think that it would get back to me because I was the new person and she felt like everybody was on her side, but that's not what it was. People did come back and tell me. So I mentioned it to the manager at that location. I said, you know, I don't want it to be an issue, but it can be. Just, you know, don't play with me. If there's ever an issue, bring it to my attention. Please make sure your employees are not, you know, speaking about me. And, you know, things were okay after that. But I still was in this space where I started to get into a space where I no longer wanted to work there, because I saw that it wasn't just one location. There was always going to be somebody that made my job unpleasant, when painting is such a fun thing. Like, why should painting even be unpleasant? So once I came to that realization, I knew I had to do something. And before we talk about that, I'm going to move on to the next step. So what I want to do next, now that I have her body filled in, I want to fill in the cloth that's kind of, or what's covering her private areas. And if you want it to be like a specific color, or like you want it to be a cloth, even if you wanted to paint over it and leave it white, you definitely could. I want it to be kind of like, almost like the stem is wrapping around her. So I'm going to make all of this green. I'm switching to a bit of a smaller flat brush, and I am going to mix up blue and yellow. So I'm going to mix my blue and yellow up, and I am going to fill in this piece that's almost like a bra, and also this piece that's kind of like a skirt. So yeah, so once I realized that, okay, it's not about what location I'm at. There's always going to be somebody that makes my job unpleasant, and this is really not for me anymore. This is such a fun job. I don't want to dread coming to work, because I don't want to work with my coworkers. So I didn't want to quit though. I didn't want to quit. I just was sitting on it for a while. And then I ended up going on what was supposed to be a 2-day trip with my best friend and her nieces, our nieces. We took them up north to go to a water park. So while we were there, the day we went, it was my off day, but that very next day I was supposed to be back to work that morning. And we're not going straight back. We were getting up and leaving that day, but it wasn't going to be in the morning. So I knew I wasn't going to make it back to work. And I woke up to call. I woke up and said, okay, let me call them and tell them I'm not coming in, tell them it's an emergency or something. And I sat on it, and I just was like, I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to go back there. And I didn't call. So what I did was, I ended up, I didn't call them. I blocked their numbers, and I cut off my phone because I didn't want them to be able to call me either. You know, I didn't know if they would terminate me right after that, or if I would still have to quit. But I really didn't care at that moment. I just was like, you know what, that's not where I want to be, and I'm no longer making it a priority to be there. Please don't ever quit like that. I'm not saying that that's the best way to quit at all. But I just knew that it wasn't for me. I didn't need them for anything, not even a reference. So I was like, you know what? I've done all that I can do here, and I'm leaving. So I didn't go to work. I got back when we got back to Detroit. A couple of my coworkers that I'm actually friends with, they were calling me. So I told them, like, yeah, you know, I told my friends, my coworkers that I was friends with, I told them the truth. And I did end up still calling and letting them know that I wouldn't be returning. And I went and picked up my last check. And when I went and picked up my last check, going into the studio even felt different. Like, I knew I didn't want to be there anymore. So I knew that I had made the right decision, but now I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do next? Because it's not like I can go to another painting with a twist. So I remember while working there that a lot of people always ask, like, do y'all come out to homes? Do y'all come out to homes? And I was like, we didn't. They didn't go to homes. They go to businesses, but not homes. So I decided, you know what? I have a big clientele of people that love to paint with me and they know me from Painting with the Twist, let me, you know, put it out there that I'm doing mobile parties. And that was in July of, no, I'm sorry, that was in July of 2017 when I quit. But I officially started doing parties in like September. And when I started doing my parties, my very first party was a friend of mine from college. Her name is Shanika. That was my very first party. And when I did her daughter's paint and sip, we did it right outside in the backyard, and I had all of the supplies that I needed. And when I saw that, okay, I can do this on my own, I took off from there and never stopped. So in October of 2017, that's when I officially announced my business and my company name, which is Paint Party. And yeah, everything took off from there. So now that I have this filled in, I am going to go back in with a bit of a lighter green on there. So right where I had my green at, I'm pulling in more yellow so that I can get a lighter green, so I can kind of go in and make it and add some lighter green on certain areas. Same way we do whenever we do our actual plants. If you painted plants with me before, I always do layers to actually make it look like plants or like leaves. So I'm going in to do that now. So yeah, so after me realizing that that just wasn't the job for me, in July of 2017, I never went back, and I had my very first paint party on my own in September of 2017, and I announced my company and filed for my LLC and everything in 2017, in October 2017. And that first year, definitely learning everything and figuring out what I need as far as like supplies, as far as a team, as far as marketing. Not even just the first year, the first few years was definitely a learning experience. But I'm super, super grateful for it. It absolutely was the best decision I ever made. And before I keep going, I'm going to also go a little bit lighter. I'm going to add some white into my mixture so that I can get some even lighter shades. And since then, I've been able to do a number of things with my own company. My biggest paint party so far has been 140 people, and that was with the NSBE conference, the National Society of Black Engineers. I was able to do a session with them, and that was 140 painters. I've been able to interview with one of our local news outlets in Detroit, which is Channel 4, Click Detroit. I was able to do an interview with them. I've been able to do parties in multiple cities. And it's been a journey. It's been a good time, but it's also, every time I do something new, it's just a reminder that I made the right decision. So leading up to 2020, a year that took us all by storm, I was able to change up the nature of my company. So although we have gone back into doing mobile parties, during the pandemic, I actually started creating kits, and now I've been able to sell kits all across the U.S. I've been able to virtually paint with people across the U.S., and I've been able to paint with you all. It's been really great as far as creating new paintings for my company as well. So I'm having a ball with you all, and I guess I owe that all to people pissing me off at work and me quitting my job in 2017, which again led to me opening up Paint Party and painting with you all through the pandemic. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go into my flower. If you want to do If you want to do a specific color, the color you do is up to you. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mixing up red and white to make a pink shade. And I'm going to be filling my petals in from largest to smallest going into the center. So I'm starting with these bigger petals and I'm going in towards the center. And I'm going to also, so that you can see the difference, my darker shade is going to be on these outside petals, middle shade here, and then my lightest shade here. So for example, that if that's my darkest shade, I'm going to go a little bit lighter for the next one, and I'm going to go even lighter for the next one. But again, whatever color you choose is completely up to you. So yeah, so you know, quitting my job led to so many great things for me, and it was a blessing, because it doesn't work out like that for everyone. But I do believe that when you're actually passionate about something, it'll work out. It'll work out. You just have to remember how passionate you are about it, and you have to really work at it. So again, those first couple of years of me quitting, everything wasn't, you know, everything wasn't the best right off. But I knew that that was something that I wanted to do. I knew that I was passionate about it, and it has really brought so many different blessings into my life for me. Like I wholeheartedly think that that was one of the best decisions I ever made. And if I had to thank my old manager for anything, and the artist lead that got on my nerves, if I had to thank those two people for anything, it would be for making me uncomfortable so that I could grow, because that's essentially what happened. Growing. Yeah, that's essentially what ended up happening, is that I became uncomfortable at work. It caused me to quit, which caused me to grow. And now I am here with you all, which I absolutely love, because you all are amazing, and I love painting with you all. I love your suggestions. And I love when you all send me your paintings. Like when you all send me pictures of your paintings, sometimes people will find me on they'll find me on like Instagram, because my Instagram is linked below, so you can definitely find me there. My personal page is Picasso Baby, and my business page is Paint Party DET. So yeah, so people DM me their date night pictures, or the pictures they did for their birthday and things like that, and I absolutely love it. So whenever you paint with me, please make sure that you send me a picture. I really love to see it, and I appreciate you all for riding this ride with me, for being on this journey and this thing called life with me. So yeah, so that's today's story time on why I quit my job and how I started, or why I started my paint and sip company. So if there are any other stories you'd like to hear, please make sure you leave them in the comments. I definitely want to make sure that I'm spending more time painting with you all, but also, you know, giving more of myself to you all, getting to know you all, because that's what life's all about. Learning about each other, learning from each other, and growing together. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. So as I'm working on this part, again, as you can see, I'm making sure to do those different shades so that I can really see my petals, even though I am going to go back in and I am going to go back and do an outline. Now, if you don't want to do an outline, you definitely don't have to, because sometimes the outline with flowers, sometimes it just makes it look a little too cartoony. So if you don't want to do the outline, you definitely don't have to. I'm going to give those petals a second to dry. And what I am going to do, I'm going to fill in my center, but I'm going to fill in my center a little differently. I'm filling my center in with yellow, but I'm using a round brush because I want to make a bit of a texture. So I'm picking up white and yellow, and what I'm doing to get that middle circle filled in is I'm tapping my brush down, and that's going to create a texture. So instead of it being just one flat shade of paint, it's going to create texture in there. So I'm constantly tapping my brush down, getting that paint spreaded out. To create that texture. And even though it's going to be like clumps of paint, it will still dry flat. It just will take a little bit longer than it normally takes to dry. So I'm going to let all of that do its thing, and while that is drying, what I am going to do is I'm going to go in and add some extra details to my girl. So I want to use a little bit of black, and I'm still using my smallest brush. I'm going to use a little bit of black, and I'm going to go in right above her chest and make like a V. I want to make a V so that it kind of accentuates her chest a little more. I'm going to also go in and make almost like a little oval here for her belly button. Some things you can do to really add some nice detail to it is if you want to add like jewelry or even waist beads. So I'm going to use, since her flower is pink, I'm going to use a little bit of pink, and I am going to go across, and I'm making little dots, taking them just like across her waist area or a little bit above her waist. To create these little beads. And you can do as many or as few as you like, it's up to you. You can even do them in white. If you want more of a gold color, you could mix up brown and yellow, or you could use an actual gold. So give her some waist beads there, and I'm gonna do a second layer of waist beads. So this time I'm mixing up yellow and brown, again because I want to get a little bit of a gold color. And you see how I'm kind of loading my brush up and then I make the dots? Almost the same way I did the center of my flower there. To use a little bit of white and give her a belly button ring. So I'm just doing 2 dots right there, and again, all of these things are completely optional. And what I'm going to do to finish up, I'm going to go back to my flower now. What I'm going to do to finish that up, I do want that to continue looking a little more on the realistic side. I don't want it to look too cartoony, so I'm actually not going to add that black outline. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a smaller flat brush, and I want to get some of my white paint here. And I'm going to go throughout the petals and give it like highlighted marks. So, but wherever you add these marks, you do want to make sure that you're following the shape of the leaf. And this will just help you further see the difference between some of the leaves if you feel like you kind of lost the shape of it, or if you feel like you lost the difference between it, like you can't really tell the difference between that leaf and the one next to it. This will just help with that. black outline, you definitely can. And I'm just going to finish up with that. So now that I have my flower filled in, I have my girl filled in, and she is curvy but still covered. The last thing I'm going to make sure to do is sign my name. And I'm just going to use my smallest brush and a little bit of black paint and sign right here in the corner. And once you have signed your name, your painting is all finished. So now that we are finished with our paintings, I am going to announce how you can get those giveaways. So if you are interested in getting one of the kits, what you want to make sure to do is down in the comments, leave your Instagram name, because I am going to be DMing the 3 winners on Instagram. If you don't have an Instagram, please make sure you leave your email below and I will email you if you are a winner. I'm going to be picking the names at random, so make sure you leave your Instagram or email in the comments and you will know if you are a winner by the end of this week. And then also, as always, thank you all so much for painting with me. Thank you for 2,000 subscribers. Thank you for going on this journey with me and growing with me. And I hope you enjoyed the first story time on why I quit and why I started my own paint and sip company. And I look forward to painting with you all some more. So have fun with your flower girls, and I will see you in the next tutorial.